Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today I'm looking at some Dynasty buys. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's go. So, my first player, Zay Flowers. And Flowers was great in the first 2 weeks, but now I think there's a buy window coming up. In 4 games, he's had 23 catches, 305 yards, touchdown, 31 targets, 5.8 catches, and 76.3 yards a game. This is a big improvement from his previous performances. He's been excellent overall. He's averaging 15.2 PPR points a game, 16th among wide receivers. And he still only scored 1 touchdown. So there's room for improvement there. Now, why do I have Zay Flowers as a dynasty buy? Well, the Lamar Jackson injury, I think, is providing a little bit of a buying window. Jackson has a hamstring injury. He may miss multiple weeks. He's saying he's going to try to play through it this week. That's not going to happen. We're going to see Cooper Rush, who's the Ravens' backup quarterback. And we know that Cooper Rush, while he's not great, supported some fantasy weapons last year on the Cowboys. But this is depressing Flowers' price. Now, let's look at the advanced stats for Zay Flowers because they're very strong. 29.5% target share, 5th among wide receivers. So he's earning targets at a rate different from what he was able to do previously, where he wasn't as good at that. And then 2.75 yards per route run, 3rd among wide receivers. Now, I'm not suggesting that Zay Flowers is the 5th best or the 3rd best wide receiver in the NFL. But I'm saying that the targets and efficiency shows that Zay Flowers has taken a step forward in 2025. He's 25 years old. It's not crazy to believe that he's taken a step forward. And he has. But I just think he's not valued very highly. He's not seen as a dynasty asset, I think, in the way that other receivers are. So I see some offers to buy Zay Flowers. The first, Zay Flowers and Emeka Egbuka for Amari and Hampton. Now, obviously, I tend to value receivers higher than running backs. I'd probably rather have Egbuka than Hampton. But even if you say that those two are equal, which I think people would say they're equal, you're getting Zay Flowers here for nothing. So I would easily do that. The next one, Zay Flowers for Brandon Ayuk in a 26-second. Brandon Ayuk may never come back. I mean, he might come back soon. Who knows? The news on Brandon Ayuk has been very negative. We're hearing that soon we'll have an update about when he might come back. That's so many maybes and ifs that I am not interested in that at all. So I would rather have Zay Flowers here. And then the last one, Zay Flowers for 2 26 seconds and a 26/3 in a 12-team Superflex. Anything getting Zay Flowers for less than a first is a smash for me. I'd even consider paying a late first in 12-team Superflex leagues for Zay Flowers. So I think Zay Flowers is a strong buy because the market just doesn't value Zay Flowers when I think he's a very strong asset that you'll be having for quite a period of time. Now, my next dynasty buy, Colston Loveland. And Loveland hasn't done anything yet. But the breakout was there in week 3 and then was spoiled by the hip injury. This is why you have to look deeper than just he hasn't done anything. Because if you just look at the stats, he hasn't done anything. He has 3 catches, 43 yards on 6 targets all year in the 3 games he played. But this is not representative of Colston Loveland's dynasty value. But people are impatient. They can't wait. And that's why they make rash decisions and why Colston Loveland is a dynasty buy. So there are a lot of reasons here. Number one, the draft capital. He was the 10th overall pick. Ben Johnson, the new Bears head coach, had the opportunity to get new weapons to add to the guys he already had. Clearly, he loves Rome Odunze, who he inherited, doesn't like DJ Moore, doesn't like DeAndre Swift, and he added Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. Colston Loveland was 10th overall pick. I find it hard to believe that a 10th overall pick is just not going to be used. I think he's going to be used. And it might take a second because Loveland is 21 years old. He doesn't even turn 22 until April 2026. Tight ends take time to develop. Tyler Warren is 2 years older, 23, which is a lot closer to the typical breakout age of a tight end, which is around 25, actually. But Loveland's very young. I get it. Brock Bowers happened. I get it. Sam Laporta happened. Not every player is going to be Brock Bowers or Sam Laporta. Sometimes it's going to take a second. And I'm fine waiting on someone this young because their value is so insulated. Now, let's take a closer look at week 3. So Loveland had 1 catch for 31 yards on 3 targets, but he played just 6 snaps. Now, he was targeted on 50% of the snaps he played. 6 snaps, 3 targets. All of this was on the initial drive. Why is that important? It's because on the scripted plays, Ben Johnson, you can tell a lot of his tendencies from the scripted plays. The scripted plays included 3 targets to Colston Loveland. All 3 of them were first read targets. That means all 3 of those plays were scripted for Colston Loveland. 3 plays on 6 snaps. If not for the hip injury, this would have been the breakout game. We wouldn't be talking about Colston Loveland now. But because he suffered the hip injury, we are. Now, the Bears are currently on a bye week. Loveland was close to playing in week 4. He did practice on Friday. I think if week 4 were a playoff game, Loveland would have played. If the Bears had a game this week, Loveland probably would play. He will play in week 6. He will be healthy. There's no reason why he'll miss that game if he was already a limited practice the Friday before week 4. So he's out of sight, out of mind. And those are the players often that are buys, right? Now, how to buy Colston Loveland? Again, I think there are a lot of ways to do it. The first one, in a tight end premium for Tony Pollard, who has not been good, and Tajay Spears is coming back, and Keenan Allen, who's been good but is old. I would easily take Colston Loveland here. Colston Loveland and a 26-second for Jake Ferguson, 12-team Superflex. Now, I don't want to say that Jake Ferguson is bad. Jake Ferguson is a good player. Jake Ferguson is the next Dallas Goedert. He's good. Great player. Important for the Cowboys. Can Jake Ferguson really be the second target on an offense? No, he can't. He can't do it. Not long term. He would have been the third target, I think, if Lamb and Pickens were healthy. But Lamb is not healthy right now. So don't be fooled by this production from Jake Ferguson. It's not permanent. It's temporary. So I would rather have Loveland straight up, let alone with a second. And then you can get Loveland for a 26-second. I would obviously do that in a regular league, let alone one with tight end premium. So Colston Loveland's one of my strongest buys in all of Dynasty, and I'm all in on buying him right now. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. I'm offering a 50% discount off your first month at all tiers using the code TylerYT50. You can use that code at checkout. Type it in. You'll get 50% off your first month. You can get all my rankings, including, of course, Dynasty rankings. I have weekly start sit every week. Access to Discord, all my write-ups. I do a write-up about every single NFL game throughout the year. Patreon-only videos, direct message fantasy advice, which is helping you manage your team, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin at just $6 a month, $3 with the discount. Now, if you want to know more about the Patreon, check out my Why You Should Join the Patreon videos on the channel. I think I'm going to do another one probably in the near future. So they're on the homepage under Patreon promos. And again, I'm offering 50% off your first month as an incentive to try the Patreon at a cheaper price. I will be doing all additional fantasy advice of any kind through the Patreon. The videos, they're going to remain what they are. Monday, Wednesday, Friday releases, the same topics, the same types of videos. That's going to stay how it is. Additional content, questions, interactive, all of that will all go through the Patreon. I promise you it's worth it. But like I've said, I believe in it and I think it has value. So I'm not going to give all of that extra stuff away for free. So if you want to try it, patreon.com/fantasy advice, use the code TylerYT50 for 50% off your first month. And I hope to see more people join. Some people have joined recently, which has been nice. And I hope to continue that momentum this week. With that said, I'll move into my next player. Now, my next player is Jayden Higgins, and he's had a quiet start to 2025, but he's been decent on limited work. And I think the breakout is coming soon. So in 4 games, he had 5 catches for 89 yards, a touchdown on 6 targets. Now, he did have a long touchdown in the last game, but he hasn't done much yet. However, I do think he's going to break out soon. And I think this is a player you want to get in before you see it. Now, why do I have Higgins as a dynasty buy? It's a clear path to the wide receiver 2 role here. He's been playing behind Xavier Hutchinson, but that won't last. Hutchinson has totaled 9 catches for 92 yards despite playing more snaps. It's not working. He's looked so bad. And Christian Kirk is the slot wide receiver, but Higgins should become the outside wide receiver 2 very, very soon. I think things will change because the Texans have not been good, and they have to see that things need to change. The Texans' offense is overall very depressing. Now, Woody Marks is getting a lot of attention, and that's good. He should be getting a lot of attention. He played really well last week. But that means that even less people are focusing on or talking about Jayden Higgins, which is providing even more of a buy window. Now, Higgins was the 34th overall pick. So typically, when you get to around pick 50, the hit rate of wide receivers falls off dramatically. Those early second round picks, yes, there are some busts. There's Jalen Polk in there. But most of these earlier second round picks, more often than not, are somewhat productive. I'm not saying they're going to be amazing, but somewhat productive. They are useful assets for real life, at least, and maybe for fantasy eventually. The Texans fully guaranteed his contract. He had 2 very strong productive seasons at Iowa State, despite competing with Jalen Knoll. Sometimes it takes second round picks a few games to get going. Jayden Higgins was not a first round pick. He was not a immediate plug and play. He's going to be a lead immediately player. He wasn't that type of player. So I haven't given up on a player who has looked good. I mean, some of the route grading and open grading and all of those grading things say that Jayden Higgins has been playing well. So he hasn't looked bad. I'm not giving up on a player like that after 4 games. Now, how do you buy Jayden Higgins? I think there's some opportunities. The first for 27 second. I mean, Jayden Higgins cost an early second to draft. I'm not sure that his value has gone down this much that I wouldn't trade a 27 second for him. You get him for Davante Adams. Now, I like Davante Adams. Davante Adams is going to be productive the rest of the year. But if you're rebuilding and you're giving up on the season and you have Davante Adams, I think you're better off taking Jayden Higgins into the future than you are Davante Adams. And then the last one, you get Higgins and a 26 first for George Pickens and 27 second. You could almost say this is kind of selling George Pickens, which might be a good idea. But I would do this. I would take the Higgins side. I think the value is on that side. So those are some ways you could buy Jayden Higgins, and I think you'll be rewarded for that over the back half of the season. Now, I usually don't cover too much news in season, but there was one piece of news that is like permanent. So Joe Flacco was benched for Dillon Gabriel. That's interesting. Now, Gabriel will start week 5 against the Vikings. He's starting week 5, international game against the Vikings defense. Brutal. I don't think it's going to go very well. I think I saw the over-under for that game was 35.5, which is insane. That's insanely low for an over-under. Regardless, I don't think Gabriel is going to do very well this week. Now, Joe Flacco will remain the backup quarterback with Shedeur Sanders as QB3. So Shedeur Sanders, if there's an injury to Dillon Gabriel, Joe Flacco will replace Dillon Gabriel, and then they'll go from there to decide what they would do in the future. But I do think we are going to see more games from Dillon Gabriel than we saw from Joe Flacco. I think Dillon Gabriel is going to get more than 4 games to play and see what he is. And then if it's really bad, they might go to Shedeur Sanders. They might trade away Joe Flacco as well. I could see that and then make Shedeur Sanders the backup. Regardless, Dillon Gabriel starting week 5. And I did tell you to stash him in Dynasty Superflex leagues because this might happen. And now he has some value if you want to sell. It'll be a bit of a shorter video, and I'll go into the Patreon questions, and then I'll wrap up the show. Can you talk about any broad strategy thoughts now that we're getting into bye season? Sure. I mean, in Superflex, there are going to be teams that have no starting quarterback. if you have someone maybe like Dillon Gabriel or another temporary starter, like maybe Mac Jones or Jake Browning, you could sell them for a profit that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. Stuff like that. In Dynasty, I wouldn't overreact to bye weeks. I wouldn't make rash moves just to cover 1 week. It's not like redraft where there is no later, no value. So I wouldn't overreact. It is what it is. If you have a loss, it's a loss. I'm not going to gut my Dynasty team for 1 week of fixing something. So that's my general strategy. Depth is important. I always said that coming into the season. These are the weeks where now, with all these injuries and buys, that you're going to see that depth is necessary. In your rankings, you have Odunze ranked below Brian Thomas Jr. Can you give a quick why? Sure. They're in the same tier. At the end of the day, the track record of players who smash as rookies is way better than those who don't and hit in year 2. At this point, they're in the same tier below the super highly valued guys. If we continue along the path that we're going along and BTJ continues to struggle and Odunze continues to do well, those could flip in the near future. Just not sure that 4 games is enough to erase the entire rookie year, but it's closed 95% of the gap between the two players. They were very far apart when the season started. Now they're in the same tier. So again, like 95% of the gap has been closed. So it would just take a little bit more to start reversing those players, if that makes sense. With Cedric Tillman going to IR and the quarterback change in Cleveland, what are your thoughts on the other pass catching options? So I knew this question was coming. That's why I didn't talk about it in the Joe Flacco benching for Dillon Gabriel segment. But the other pass catching options, obviously Tillman on IR is a tough blow. I do think now the problem was they kind of had one player too many. They had Judy, Tillman, Njoku, and Fannin all competing for targets. Yes, Isaiah Bond is going to now be the wide receiver 2 and get a little bit involved, but Isaiah Bond is not going to earn the targets that Cedric Tillman did. So, and also he was there before. So now I think there's 4 options instead of 5. So my thoughts are that Jerry Jeudy will be the primary beneficiary. I think Jerry Jeudy will become more startable now. Maybe not this week, but in the future. As for the tight ends, I do think the lack of Tillman, sometimes extra targets, usually for tight ends, targets are mostly given when wide receivers are out. Now a wide receiver is out, so tight ends may gain those targets. That's usually how it works. So Harold Fannin could be more of a low-end tight end 1 than a mid tight end 2. And David Njoku could be more of a mid tight end 2 instead of totally irrelevant. So that's kind of where I'm at. I do think this injury makes it less likely that they trade David Njoku, but I wouldn't rule that out because the Browns are obviously not trying to win this year. But yeah, Jerry Jeudy, I think, would be the main beneficiary if I had to pick one, and then Isaiah Bond in terms of the playing time. Now, if you like the video, make sure to support the channel by subscribing. And don't forget to hit that new hype button to help the videos in the algorithm. Plus, hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. Dynasty content year-round and start-sit content all year in season. 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT50. You can sign up in the top right corner, patreon.com/fantasy advice. Every sign-up helps support my independent content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.